1. Fired. Texas A&M University professor. I repeat, Texas A&M professor fired for teaching gender ideology. It even got the attention of the governor of Texas. 2. Full video of the horrific murder in Charlotte reveals the lie our entire justice system, policing, and national conversation was built upon for the past 5 years, and illustrates the cost of that lie with Kurt Schlichter. 3. Debate with Senator Rand Paul about blowing up the cartels. It is Will Kane Country, streaming live at the Will Kane Country YouTube channel, the Fox News Facebook page, terrestrial radio across this great United States of America, but always on demand by subscribing or hitting follow on Spotify and Apple. We would love for you to do just that. Hit follow. Make sure Will Kane Country shows up every day in your feed, on your phone, in your conversation. While you're at it, we would love for you as well to bookmark, like, and subscribe to this community. Welcome into the country. Arm up as a member of the militia by subscribing on YouTube to Will Kane Country. I'm fired up this morning. I'm actually angry. And anger isn't the best emotion to tap into. It's certainly not what we look for when we want to hang out mid-morning or on your lunch break. But I can't help it. I'm angry after seeing the full video, the unedited video of Zarina Zalutska being murdered on the Charlotte light rail by DeCarlos Brown Jr. I'm angry at the people around who watched her bleed out. I'm angry at the system that puts a man like DeCarlos Brown Jr. on a seat behind us on the subway. And I'm angry at the media and the politicians who not only care nothing about this story and commit a lie by omission, but I'm angry that even today they can barely deign to acknowledge what happened in Charlotte. In the wake of George Floyd, Senator Chuck Schumer of New York said, "We must reform our laws and our police practices so that events like George Floyd's killing are less likely in the first place." After the murder of Irina Zalutska, Chuck Schumer says nothing. After the death of George Floyd, Nancy Pelosi says, "We saw an execution of a person on TV. We saw it happen, a knee to the neck. There were others who witnessed it, who would be considered in other circumstances accomplices to it. I have my own concern about a murder 3 charge." When it comes to the murder of Irina Zalutska or the witnesses right there on the train next to this murder who, applying past standards from Nancy Pelosi, could be accomplices to murder, when it comes to this case in Charlotte, nothing. Zero. From Nancy Pelosi. After George Floyd, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said, "George Floyd should be alive. Instead, he was killed as he begged for his life. The impunity of police violence is a systemic problem we must face to save lives. The status quo is killing us." After someone actually dared to step up on the subway, AOC said this about Daniel Penny: "If we do not want violence on the subways, and the point of the justice system is a level of accountability to prevent a person who does not have remorse about taking another person's life." But after the murder of Irina Zalutska, AOC says zero. I spent a few minutes last night watching MSNBC and CNN, and I saw all of about 60 seconds of coverage of Charlotte. This entire society, our justice system, our policing has been built upon a lie built in 2020, that the greatest threat facing this nation is white supremacy. From politicians to media figures, from celebrities to sports media. We built a lie, and now we're paying the consequences for that lie. I want a list. I want clips. I want names. I want everyone responsible for telling the lie that makes it unsafe for you to sit on a train. I'm going to get into all of this a little bit later here with Kurt Schlichter. But I want to get started with a few other stories today. Let's get started with it. Story number one. Quick take starting in College Station, Texas. In a college course filmed by a student, a professor embarked on gender ideology and then was confronted by that student. Listen, watch.
I just have a question because I'm not entirely sure this is legal to be teaching because according to our president, there's only two genders, and he said that he would be freezing agencies funding programs that promote gender ideology. And this also very much goes against not only myself, but a lot of people's religious beliefs. And so I am not going to participate in this because it's not legal, and I don't want to promote something that is against our president's laws as well as against my religious beliefs. Yes.
You are under in this conception that what I'm saying is.
That professor asked the student to leave the classroom after quoting executive authority of the President of the United States and the state law of Texas that what was being taught in that classroom is illegal. Texas A&M University put out a statement that reads as follows from the university president, Mark Welsh III. I learned this afternoon that key leaders in the College of Arts and Sciences approved plans to continue teaching course content that was not consistent with the course's published description. Governor Greg Abbott responded, good. Now fire the professor who acted contrary to Texas law. That student is referencing an executive order signed by the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, on January 20th, 2025, reinforcing that there are two genders. Federal law, public institutions, state schools will reflect that biological reality and not the gender ideology that has grown, seeded, planted, blossomed over the last 5 years. The governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, is referencing Senate Bill 37, which requires that public institutions that receive taxpayer funding will not be teaching the type of content that was exactly taught in that classroom. That student knew the law. That student knew what was going on. That teacher ignored the law. And that teacher, by the way, has now paid the price. Later, Governor Greg Abbott posted again on X, the professor has now been fired. That teacher, that professor, that department head, and maybe that university president all thought the law did not apply to them. Whatever entitlement they felt about what they thought they could teach, they found out they are not above the law. Good on that student, not only for knowing the law, but documenting what was happening in that classroom. And it is shocking that it was happening at Texas A&M, one of the last places you would actually think this type of thing to be happening. But if it's happening at Texas A&M, you can be rest assured it's happening in other places as well. These teachers, this ideology, and this course content is entrenched in our education system. In fact, it's entrenched in our society. And it thinks it has the moral high ground. It's going to take the rest of society to actually step up and go, no, you don't have the moral high ground. Nor do you have the entitlement, nor do you have the legal authority to be doing exactly what it is you're doing here today. Next, in quick takes, Los Angeles fire relief raised a ton of money for the people that lost their homes in the Pacific Palisades fire. But as has been reported on the Will Kane Show on the Fox News channel and in various outlets, that money is going to some very, very curious places. If you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, step inside the Will Kane Country studios here and take a look. If you're listening on radio or on podcast, I'll lay it out for you. $500,000 has gone to the Music Health Alliance. This is for mental health care for musicians who were fire victims. $500,000 has gone to the Center for Applied Ecological Remediation. What's that? For post-fire bioremediation that uses fungi, beneficial microbes, and native plants to restore soil health. $500,000 for cleaning and sanitizing preschools. $250,000 for workshops and training for other nonprofits. $100,000 to the Los Angeles Children's Chorus for uniforms and supplies for your choir members. How about $100,000 for the Woodcraft Rangers for trauma-informed camping trips for teen fire victims? How about Altadena Talks Foundation? $100,000 for podcasts about the wildfires. This is what people who donated money to help the victims of the Los Angeles fires wanted their money to go to. You know, I'm no expert. I really don't profess expertise. But after the fires in Maui, I got very involved in raising money and distributing money and helping people who had lost their homes after that fire. You know, there's a lot of different things you can do to help people out. But one of the things that I found, outside of the spiritual help that you can offer, the place of community and faith that they can gather and connect again to one another, and outside of setting up schools again for their children, what they most need in that moment is money, and immediate money, because you're waiting on insurance claims. You don't know if you'll get your insurance claim. Where do you live in the short term? How do you rebuild if insurance doesn't cover everything that was there? Oh, by the way, you would love a lot of help by permitting from the government to let you get started once again. Now, again, I don't think any type of aid is perfect. What we chose to do, and we, all of us, you listening and watching who contributed $2.6 million to a fund that we distributed in $12,000 grants to over 210 families who lost their home, was to give them that money directly. You can't vet it. You can't tell someone how to rebuild their life. You can't play paternalism to them. You just give them the freedom and the money to do what they will to rebuild their own lives. This, I don't know. Like, what is all of this? It's a boondoggle. It's a bureaucracy. It's hands in the till. And it is paternalism. Like, this is how we're going to help people. Wildfire trips, camping trips for wildfire victims, podcasts. How about using that money to give directly to people who have lost their home and heard thoughts? And what they choose to do with it is up to them. Thus is the price of freedom. You know, the best you can do, and I'll tell you, like, I personally called almost all, and I say almost because I had another great person helping me out with this, another couple people. I personally called almost all of the 212 recipients. I'll tell you this, out of all of them, and I didn't just call, I had a lot of people in the community that I called about them. What's their story? What are they doing? Did they really lose their home? You know, I only had one. And that one, she had substance abuse issues. And I was told if you give this money to her, it's going to go straight in a glass or straight into a needle. It's the only one where I was like, well, I don't think it would be the right thing to do to give $12,000 to this person. But everyone else, if they choose to move, they choose to rebuild, if they choose to buy a car, that's them. That's their life. That's their freedom. And that's how you help people out, at least on a mass scale, from a distance. If you're in the community, there's different things that you do. But people that are giving from a distance, I think you got to give that money directly to the people who need the money. Otherwise, this is people making money off of people needing money. That's what this is. People making money off of other people needing money. Third, Kamala Harris's book is out, and there's some things for us to learn about the campaign of Joe Biden. I want to read from Kamala Harris's new book now. Of all the people in the White House, I was in the worst position to make the case that he should drop out of the race. I knew it would come off to him as incredibly self-serving if I advised him not to run. He would see it as naked ambition, perhaps as a poisonous disloyalty, even if my only message was, don't let the other guy win. It's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that, like a mantra, as if we'd been hypnotized. Was it grace or was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was recklessness. The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. Should have been more than a personal decision. That is incredible. That is a shot across the bow at the Bidens. Ran for ego, ran for ambition. Didn't run for what was best for the Democrat Party, didn't run for what was best for America. What was best for America was the presidency of Donald Trump. But this, you would think, is going to elicit some type of response from the Bidens. This, while true, by the way, this is true, but it's the kind of truths you don't normally hear or see or read behind the scenes, behind the curtain. But you're hearing it here from Kamala Harris. She also wrote, I shouldered the blame for the porous border, an issue that had proved intractable for Democratic and Republican administrations alike. Even the breathtaking cruelty of Trump's family separation policy hadn't deterred the desperate. It was an issue that absolutely demanded bipartisan cooperation at an impossibly partisan, most uncooperative time. Well, that's not true. We know that. The damn issue was fixed in a few months with simply a new president, not a policy. Like, I don't know when this book was written, only published, but like, your statements are being proven false in real time. Your statements they don't even last a couple months. As was said, the State of the Union, we didn't need a new policy, we simply needed a new president. The issue at the southern border largely fixed. And it should expose the lie that you've been told for years. Got to have a bipartisan cooperation. Got to have a bipartisan solution. What they meant by that was we're not going to fix the border until you give a pathway to citizenship to the existing illegal population. That's what it always meant. We're going to hold the border security hostage in order to give a pathway to citizenship to an existing illegal population. It's what it always meant. And it's impossible to get done unless we do this together. Because you're holding it hostage. But no, we always had the power. You don't get to hold it hostage anymore. We got a new president. I cannot tell you how fired up I am about what has gone on with this issue in Charlotte. It just keeps getting worse. And I demand accountability. I demand names. I want to hear again the crap that they said, the lies that they told that led to the potential for a young girl. You see the pictures of her. Such innocence as she looked up at her murderer. Big shocked doe eyes. And you think about all the people that created a world where this is likely. We're going to break that down with Kurt Schlichter next on Kane Country. Did you know? You do know, right? That the biggest problem facing America is white supremacy? I mean, I think it's responsible for like 80% of crime. That's what I'm reliably told by Jasmine Crockett. And that's what I was told by the former president of the United States, Joe Biden. It is Kane Country on the Kane Country YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple. Subscribe, hit, like, follow, please. Jump into the comment section. And by the way, there's a poll up right now. 2 days. You got a poll up. Would you read us your poll?
Yeah, so we have a poll up. What drives outrage for Democrats? Is it political convenience, media pressure, or genuine concern for justice? Does that not make sense to you? There's a lot of words. Let me see if I can understand. What drives outrage for Democrats? Meaning what outrages Democrats? Yes, what drives them to be outraged? What is their reasoning to be outraged in public? Is it political convenience, media pressure, or genuine concern?
So political convenience, you mean like what's advantageous to them politically?
Exactly.
Like that's when they're outraged?
They pick a topic that they...
Did you chat GPT this?
No, yeah.
How did you pick these words?
No, yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm trying to translate your chat GPT. So they do it for their own political outrage.
Yep.
What was my second option?
Media pressure. Do Dems feel pressured to be outraged by a certain topic?
So the tail wags the dog. The media gets outraged, then the Democrats get outraged. Okay.
Or
And
is it
what's third?
genuine concern for justice? Do they really care about that issue?
Okay. ChatGPT Dan has a poll up. Do you have any results yet?
I do. We have results. So 76%.
Let me guess. It was genuine concern. It's a runaway genuine concern.
That is the last. Political convenience is at 76%. Media pressure 16%. Genuine concern 7%.
No, I think people are right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can separate media pressure and political convenience, but I think that's probably right. In terms, I don't think that Abby Phillips on CNN has as much influence over Nancy Pelosi as a cold-hearted calculation of what she thinks will work politically. Clearly, it's not Charlotte. This is not what outrages Democrats. Let's talk about that now with senior columnist at townhall.com, the author of American Apocalypse, the Second American Civil War. It's Kurt Schlichter here on Kane Country. What's up, Kurt?
Hey, Will, I'm a little irritated.
I'm
a little irritated. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Why? Can you hear me? Why are you irritated? I'm concerned. Why are you
Well,
irritated?
I remember when Barack Obama came out and said, Trayvon Martin could be my son. And I don't think that's true because I don't think Barack Obama would have raised a little street thug. But this arena girl could have been my daughter or your daughter or any of our daughters, butchered on a train by a guy who should have been locked up years ago. And of course, that's the moderate position. I think this has really struck a nerve. I think this is going to be a turning point, and I'm not sure. I've been warning people about Balkanization ever since I served in the Balkans and saw what happened when ethnic group was pitted against ethnic group, and that's what's happened here. And I think a lot of this is coming undone now. But I got to say, it is intolerable to have a situation where certain Americans are in danger of being butchered because of their ethnicity. That is unacceptable, meaning it will not be accepted. So I think, and I'm going to write about this at Town Hall on Monday, I think we can either do this the easy way or the hard way, but it's going to get done. This is not going to stay.
You're concerned about racial balkanization? Is that what you're saying? So basically,
I'm very concerned about
United
it.
States. Tell me about that.
Well, look, I'm just a suburban Californian guy, and I got mobilized after 9/11 to head over to Kosovo with a bunch of other National Guard folks. And our goal was to keep people we didn't understand from killing other people we didn't understand. And it turns out there's a whole bunch of ethnic groups over there, and they had lived next to each other for hundreds of years and hated each other viciously. And the only thing that kept them from butchering each other was Josip Tito, the dictator in Yugoslavia before that country fell apart, would bang their heads together if they got out of line. But when he went away, all the restraints were off, and they went on a mass killing spree over ethnicities we couldn't understand. I mean, I still can't tell a Kalb from a Serb, from a Roma, from a Dervish, from any of these other groups that it's meaningless to us. It's very important to them. This cannot be transported to here in the United States, but especially after Barack Obama started this kind of use this racial polarization as a point of leverage to gain power, and especially after George Floyd choked out. Well, he didn't choke out, actually. He died of a fentanyl overdose. He was a scumbag felon drug addict. who became some sort of tool to beat on normal Americans and tell them that they were systemically racist, when, of course, the American people are the least racist people on Earth. And I, as a guy who's lived on 3 continents, can testify to that. So, you know, I keep saying, Will, you can't have a society. The glory of America was that the majority of Americans didn't identify themselves by their race. White Americans thought, well, I'm just an American. You know, this doesn't matter to me. Especially after 2020, suddenly they were forced to identify by race because that's what the left was doing. You are inherently bad because your dad came from, or your great-grandfather came from Norway or wherever. And, you know, the racial tensions that we've had ever since are a result of that. And there are people out there who actively hate white people, like this guy, like other killers, like people you see in the media, like people you see in academia. And I hate saying this. It's disgusting. Yeah. I mean, it's awful that this
hold on.
Garbage happening.
I'm really pissed. I'm really pissed as well. I really am. I am pissed about what happened in 2020 and what has happened since. I really am. And I think there has to be a great undoing. I don't know how this is done, but there has to be a great undoing. And the great undoing is policy and politics and all that. Yes. There needs to be a great purge. To be quite honest, there needs to be a great purge of people with microphones and in the media. Their credibility has been trashed, but more importantly, their malevolence has been exposed. They are racists, and that's the God's honest truth. I don't care which way racism runs. I don't believe it can run in only one direction. It runs in every direction. And their racism has been made naked, and there needs to be a purge in media. And then there needs to be a great awakening in society to do away with the lie that was told after 2020. All of this has to happen. Now you say, why are you talking about this after Charlotte? You know, because to me, the direct line is obvious. You can draw the direct line. The lie told in the wake of George Floyd. And to your point, I'm bringing up Trayvon Martin. It actually weirdly started before George Floyd. I was there. I was at CNN in 2014. I believe it was 14, or could have been 12. What was it? With Trayvon Martin. It kind of began then. And then you know what? I had a front row seat, Kurt, in the sports world, because I was there for the Colin Kaepernick affair. And by the way, this thing I'm talking about politicians, media figures, sports media figures, because it's everywhere, right? And it remains where everything we do is seen through the lens of race. All of it. And it's made the United States tribal. It's made us susceptible to what you're talking about, this balkanization. And it has led, it's a direct line then of policies that were implemented, prosecutorial level, judges and judicial system level, political level, that leads to the potential for a guy like DeCarlos Brown Jr. to sit down behind Irina Zalutska on a train and randomly stab her 3 times in the neck. So yeah, I'm pissed. I'm pissed as well, Kurt.
Yeah, and this has been going on for a long time. This is, you know, the idea that somehow we can't enforce the law and keep public order because we're going to arrest too many of the wrong people. Hey, as long as you're arresting criminals, you're arresting the right people. Let me tell you a quick story. I was in the National Guard during the LA riots. Came back from the Gulf War, suddenly found myself on the streets of LA during my first year law school exams with an M16 rifle riding around with the battalion commander. We go down to a park in South Central. All my troops were from South Central, so they didn't have a lot of patience for the gang guys. They cleaned out this park. I was there with the colonel. We're walking around. This black lady runs out and hugs me. And now I'm just some suburban guy from San Mateo, California, man. I don't know anything about the ghetto. It blown my mind being down there. It was, it was a trip. It was more intense than the war was. And I said, well, thanks. And she says, my kids have never been able to play in this park. This chaos is a choice. Yeah. It's a choice. Because they don't want to be seen as arresting the wrong people. The wrong people are the people who are committing crimes, the people who are menacing out in public, you know, and I don't mean just major crimes. If you're a vandal, if you are smoking a joint, if you're playing your music loud, if you're shouting, if you're glaring at people nastily, if you're just a scumbag sitting there doing drugs, you're dominating public space from normal people. That needs to be intolerable.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's great. That's Rudy Giuliani's broken windows theory. You know, Bill Bratt's broken windows theory. New York City, Boston, prosecute the small crimes, then they don't metastasize into large crimes. You know what you bring up? Okay, you're arresting the wrong people. This isn't just rhetoric that Kurt and I are talking about. The MacArthur Foundation gave $3.3 million to Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. Mecklenburg County, North Carolina is the home of Charlotte, North Carolina. That $3.3 million was granted to reduce the prison population because, here's the theory, there was a disproportionate number of black and brown people imprisoned in Mecklenburg County. Okay, I believe at the time they cited were 47% of the population were black and brown, 88% of the prison population. But that's not the game you play. It's what percentage of the crimes are committed by a certain person or group of people, and does that reflect the prison population? So they went on a program with this money to reduce the prison population and put people back on the streets. And to your point on the black lady hugging you, you know, honestly, and I did this on the Will Kane Show, interracial crime, we have the stats on it, okay? Black on white is far and away the biggest category, far and away, especially when you adjust it per capita. 31 more times likely than the reverse happening. However, what I didn't have on that screen, because I was only focused on the interracial crime aspect, is black on black crime. And that is through the roof. The people that have to live under the conditions are the people that look like the perpetrators of those conditions.
Exactly. And look, I've been a Republican as long as I've been alive, a Republican activist. I'm going to do Republican stuff this weekend. Let me put an invitation out there to every American of every color who wants to stand up for safe streets so your son or daughter can walk to school without being worried, so your mom can come back from church without thinking she's going to catch a 9mm slug because two sets of gangbangers are shooting it out, you know, with the upside down gun and everything. I want to invite every American of goodwill to come be a Republican, to put hard on crime policies in effect. If you're a bad guy, we're not going to check your race card. We're going to check your rap sheet. That's all. That's who we are. Now, counter that if you think that the problem of crime is everybody's been mean and the poor guy's a victim and we can't really expect them not to act like semi-human barbarians. Well, you know, you got a place in the Democrat Party. They want you. They want you. You're welcome over there.
Here. Okay, so this is where I've already probably spent all my currency on being pissed this morning. But at the risk of getting more, okay? And I want you to enjoy your lunch break, everybody watching. Or if you're watching in the evening on your commute home, I really do. I want you to have a nice time. But this is going to raise your blood pressure, okay? This is real sound from real politicians in America, okay? First, Joe Biden at the famous red wedding speech. Remember, he was standing in front of the red Nazi curtains with extreme overhead lighting, and he said this. This isn't at the red wedding when he says this?
White supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Okay, so that's not the red wedding. That's not the red wedding speech. He's at a school. He's got a robe on. By the way, look at the Will Kane Country logo in the corner there. I swear it looks like we're raising canes. Does that not look like Raising Canes? Two-a-days. While we're working on this, pull up the Raising Canes logo. We're going to look at that later. See how close they are. Yeah, there you go, Kurt. The biggest thing. What do you say? The biggest threat facing America is white supremacy. Oh, by the way, before you respond to that, that's a little generic, right? That's a little abstract and out there. How about Jasmine Crockett? Because she put some numbers to it. Here's Jasmine Crockett.
And if you really want to know who the criminals are in this country, you can Google it. You don't have to trust me. But the people that commit 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are white supremacists. Yet for whatever reason, they sit and they serve at the pleasure of the president. They are the ones that were there on January 6th, tearing our democracy down physically. And now we have them tearing us down right here from within.
So, okay, the greatest threat facing our country is white supremacy, and white supremacy is responsible for 80% of violent crime in America, Kurt.
Well, look, this is, Democrats often raise a question for me, Will. Are they stupid or do they think we're stupid? Now, it could be both.
No, it's B. Those two pieces of sound, it's B on both of those pieces of sound. No one's that stupid. That stat, she doesn't believe that. So, like, she's not just dumb saying that. She thinks you're dumb.
Well, see, here's the problem. And I used to, when I was still practicing law, people paid me hundreds of dollars an hour to go argue things, argue facts and evidence and stuff. And that doesn't apply in politics anymore, because the idea of reason and argument, that doesn't exist. The other side just lies. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to take power lawfully, and then we're going to execute it ruthlessly like Donald Trump is. I don't care if you call me racist. I don't care if you call me sexist. I hope you call me a transphobe, because I think that's all weirdness. Islamophobe, don't care. I don't care about your epithets. I don't care about your names. I don't care about your lies. I'm going to make my people safe. My people are the American people. I defended them in uniform. I'm going to defend them in a suit. And I hope every other decent American feels the same. I'm not going to argue with Jasmine Crockett. I might as well go argue with my dachshund. Actually, my dog's probably smarter. Certainly like having him around more. But
he's more pleasant.
At
least he's more pleasant.
At least he's more pleasant. The only thing is my new adopted home of Texas, and I'm at the Houston compound right now, is in the process of gerrymandering Jasmine Crockett's district out of existence, which is like a cherry on top of the cherry on top of the other cherry on the Sunday that is the Lone Star State. I mean, I just love it here. And I'm not going to look. We've got to stop caring what they say. And I've got to tell you, I'm way ahead. I'm way ahead on not giving a damn about anything they say about this.
It's really the only place to be. It really is. Because the outcome, somebody posted this the other day, you're either going to sacrifice your society to racial balkanization while being called a racist, or you're going to save your civilization while being called a racist. You're going to get called racist either way. So you might as well save your civilization.
And it's so stupid. I remember one time the femboys at the Bulwark were writing about my books, which everybody should go out and buy. And they said, well, Kurt, he's an appalling racist. And I turned to my Latinx legal immigrant wife, and I said, honey, I've got some bad news for you. I mean, it's just stupid. By the way, that blurb is on the back of all my books now. I have a Bill Kristol blurb on my books where he calls me appalling, because I can't think of a better validation for my my thoughts and my art than Bill Kristol being all pissed off.
Back to the purge, Kurt. I want accountability. I really, really do. I think the things that were said by politicians and media and sports media and celebrities have to be held to account. We have to be reminded, and they have to be held to account. I was in sports media, and I think about the times that I was called a racist as well. And I'm like, for what? All I was ever accused of being a racist about was being someone who cared about the facts and judged people as individuals, who declined to make immediate sweeping indictments of entire races in the wake of tragedies. And I will tell you this, the people that were willing to do that have been more responsible for damage to this society than any group of people since, I don't know, the communists. And maybe they're indistinguishable. But
the Venn diagram's one big circle.
but they not only inflicted situations like what we just saw unfold in Charlotte, but I believe they have increased the likelihood of racial balkanization, and they have made the conditions of living for in this scenario, this particular part of the conversation, black Americans worse. They have made it markedly worse. The only people that benefited from what they did are the ones that got several $1 million contracts from Spotify. And they did. There were those that did. They did this to the effect of getting big contracts from Spotify. That's who benefited. Everyone else suffered.
Short-term political and economic gain, which they're happy to embrace, regardless of the long-term damage. I mean, I keep thinking, well, white supremacy is a real threat. Dude, I've seen what happens when the majority of a society decides it doesn't decides it's had it with a minority in society. Okay? We had to have helicopter gunships to stop it. All right? It's bad. It's horrible. Don't talk about these things. Don't act, don't destroy what America has. America built the greatest country in the history of mankind. And one of the key components is we didn't think of ourselves as a tribe. We thought ourselves as a nation. And if you destroy that, you don't want to go back to the state of nature. All right? Burke had it right. People are not necessarily nice. How about we embrace an ideology where we don't, follow mankind's worst instincts, because they are our instincts, and numbers matter. Dude, do not do this. It's not going to work out.
You bring up the philosopher Edmund Burke, but the founders of the United States of America shared that exact same concern. They thought the biggest threat to the republic was factionalization. That's what they wrote about. How do we protect from factionalization? I'm 50 years old, so I can't speak to the 1960s. The last 5 years have been some of the worst in American history in my lifetime of factionalization. We're toying, I think you're exactly right, Kurt. We are toying with the worst of humanity, and we are toying with the biggest failure point of every civilization. Yep. And if we don't get this right, I don't know. Maybe my calls for accountability fan the flames. I don't know. Maybe we just need to put this era behind us. But we can't when we've got girls getting stabbed in the neck on the Charlotte light rail. Last word to you, Kurt.
No, it's intolerable, meaning it's not going to be tolerated. This is either going to get resolved the easy way, where we come back to a normal consensus where criminals are bad. And remember, in the 90s, Bill Clinton was putting 100,000 cops on the street, right? Joe Biden was voting for the super predator crime bill. There were mandatory sentences. We put criminals in jail. Crime went down. Everybody agreed on that. Crime is bad. We came to that consensus when the Democrats came to their senses in 1992, and they even won elections doing it. Well, we can go back to that. That's the easy way. The hard way.
Okay.
The hard way is
the
hard way, and maybe you Democrats want to think about that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think everybody. Yeah, we don't want that to happen. I think everybody gets what you're getting at. But the hard way is there's plenty of historical examples.
Yes.
All right, man, we did it. I mean, I wanted to get this off my chest, but have we spent the currency on outrage? You let us know. I've got your comments already coming in. I'm going to read a few of those comments. But we want to thank Kurt Schlichter. By the way, he talked about his books. Check them out. Latest is American Apocalypse, the Second American Civil War. There he fictionalizes the hard way. Check it out right now. Kurt, it's always great to see you, man. Welcome to Texas.
Hey, thank you. And I think I'm going to have a Whataburger.
Okay, I'll see you next time. There he goes, Kurt Schlichter. Check him out as well at townhall.com. Hey, by the way, I got into it with Senator Rand Paul yesterday on the Will Kane Show. To take you behind the scenes. How did that go? That's next on Will Kane Country. Knockdown drag out with Senator Rand Paul. So yeah, don't just fight with Democrats. That's coming up on Will Kane Country. A lot of viewers. Let's just do this. I want to have a little time here. This is what Will Kane Country is. Speaking of that, I did a little morning walk this morning with Steve Ducey. He's in Dallas. You know, he does it on Fox and Friends. We did a little walk together. And I talked about this show. I said, I hope everybody comes and hangs out with us on Will Kane Country. And it got me thinking as I was walking in this morning, like, I wonder where you have discovered this show. Like, did you discover the show because you were original Will Kane podcast listener? Or, you know, did you get it from the Fox News YouTube channel? But a lot of you are now, I mean, legit members of the militia. I know, I see your names. I'm curious how you discovered the show. Like, for example, and Tinfoil Pat and 2 Days Dan, jump in real quick. Because Pat said I'm mispronouncing, what? Pat said I'm mispronouncing Jeppy's name, Jeppy Anderson, who's a member of the militia.
I think it's
Pat,
Yippee,
you think I'm saying it wrong?
Yippee. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. He actually sent an email a while ago, and I don't remember the exact pronunciation, but I need to go back and look at it. I think it's Yippee.
Like yippee?
Yippee.
Like when you jump off something?
Yippee.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe he'll answer right now.
I'm sure he
it's
will.
Jeppy too, Ed. He says your poll was worded weird, Dan. Just saying. And by the way,
Yeah, whatever.
Holo howdy noko oi.
That's a good pronunciation.
Howdy noko oi. I'm really proud of myself. That was good, right? That's
Yeah.
why I did it twice. I wanted everybody to notice that I did that really well. Yeah, man. What's up, Howley? I know how to read that. He says, I actually have a sense of guilt by association for championing Obama the first term. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Well, some of the hey, by the way, you're forgiven. I forgive you. I don't know about it. I forgive you. I forgive you. You know, there's a famous saying in Texas. You know, I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could. Hola hola hale no ka oi. You weren't born here, but you got here as fast as you could. And Connor says, Yeppy responds. Jeppy, what'd he say, Connor? Go to the mic. I give you permission.
I see Yeppa. That's how he's typing it in the chat.
Yeppa. Yes, Yeppa.
Yeppa Anderson.
Yeppa.
There you go.
What is that? Like, is that a Nordic
Yeppa?
thing?
Yeah.
What is that, Scandinavian? It's
Yeah.
gotta be
We have a lot of
Scandinavian.
answers to how they found you too.
Okay. First, before you read those answers, we're having a conversation with the militia. I heard that you guys noticed the same thing I did. Something different about the show today. 2 Days has created a little banner that runs at the bottom of the show, and I told him yesterday. Not that I said I didn't like it. That looks just like Raising Cane's, like the red Will Kane Country. It looks like Raising Cane's. You have it 2 Days. You can put it up.
Yeah, it's up there. It's close-ish. I have a gradient
It's a dead
on it.
ringer.
I mean,
what are you talking about? It's not close. It's a dead ringer.
I use the exact
It's a
Fox
red
News
background.
red. The exact Fox News red. See that other little logo over there? That's the same red.
It's a little darker red. Look at that, though. It's white writing and yellow writing on a red field, and it's also kind of cursive-y. I know it's not cursive, but it's got a little slant to it. It looks like Raising Cane's, man.
Isn't
Maybe
the
Maybe
Raising
this show
Cane's
should
guy
be-
from Dallas?
Yeah.
It should be
maybe
the
they
Raising
be
Cane
sponsoring
studio.
Our show.
They should sponsor the studio. The Will Kane Country
Kane
Raising
Country.
Cane
100%.
studio.
Presented by Raising Cane's.
Welcome into the Raising Cane studio.
Yeah, there you go. You'll never be hungry.
Yes.
I'll visit
What
a
I
lot
like
more.
about you 2 Days and what I like about this show is you just did it, okay?
Yeah.
You didn't ask for my permission. You didn't ask. You may ask for forgiveness, which I don't want you to. We just did it. It didn't run through 3 layers of permissions. And there are times when I have to do that, but not here. People don't pay attention. We just get to do it, and we trial and error. And we're going to have some error. I mean, I think that you can see. We have some error.
They're paying a
Welcome
little more
to the
attention
Raising Cane
now. though.
Studios. All right, what are the people saying 2 Days? You said they jumped in on the logo and how they found Will Kane Country.
Yeah, a couple people said been a fan since ESPN days. First Take, they've been a fan since. Christina said I found it on
Yes.
X.
By the way, that person knows who I'm talking about getting these damn Spotify contracts for being a race grievance monger. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't like to always name names, but maybe we should.
And then
Go ahead.
David Franklin said, it's my first time here. What brought me in was the title. Figured I'd stop by and check it out.
David? David? Is that what it was? 2 days?
That's right.
David Franklin. Welcome, David. That's, you know what's funny, David? Okay, we've got regular listeners, which are the Willisha, and then every day we're like, okay, we produce a show. What are we going to talk about today? And then there is a team of people who talk about the headline, the title of the show, and then there's the social media clips that go out. And, like, it worked. Thanks, David, for being here.
Boom.
Dan, your title. It got David's attention. I hope the show, hope you liked it, David. I hope you're, intrigued to keep hanging out, because we'll be back here again tomorrow, Monday through Thursday, 12 o'clock Eastern time. All right, you got anything else from the Willisha right now?
We have a person, Augie Doggy, says, I listened to the podcast and found you on YouTube. So that's a good one, too.
Nice. What's up, Augie? All right, over on YouTube, Ramza says, but he probably shouldn't have been released on his last arrest, talking about DeCarlos Brown Jr. Yeah, exactly, Ramza. There was plenty of opportunities to make sure this guy wasn't on the streets. Michael Knight says, after seeing the full video, the killer walked away. It's shameful that there are other passengers that did not provide help for that young lady. The killer had left, and they walked away. That's disgusting. Do you know what is even more disgusting, Michael, that I saw? I saw someone videoing it. I saw a dude with his phone out videoing the blood running all over the floor of the train and not on the floor helping her. Tinfoil. You brought this up. I actually think it's a great point. I meant to remember this. So in the NHL, back in the days, when goalies didn't wear a mask, didn't have much protective gear, and I don't know if you have his name, Tinfoil, but there was a goalie who took a skate to the throat, slashed his throat. Blood flows all over the ice, right? I mean, he had his throat slashed. He survived. Why did he survive? Other people went to help him. They went to cover up his wound. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of you, it's like, what can you do if somebody has their throat slit? But this guy survived. And you had, when I saw the video, it looked like at least 5 people around her who did absolutely nothing. Now, it does look like at some point, I saw a still shot, and you saw this too, Patrick, of a guy who did at some point go to try to help. But at that point, it's too late. But it's as disgusted as I am at the media and the policies and everybody. Like, that's a society, man. A society is other people stopping to help other people. And it's disgusting to see the way those people acted on the train.
People are afraid.
And then Mark's, go ahead.
No, I think people are
Afraid
afraid to step in. I travel and commute in New York City every day. People are afraid to do anything and step up because of what would happen to them, whether it be violence, whether it be
there's
video.
a moment of shock.
Yeah.
There's a moment of shock, right? And you're like, whoa, what just happened? And everybody thinks about their own personal safety for a second. There is also a thought about this, like, it kind of looks at the front end like he just punches her a bunch of times.
Yep.
And so everybody around could not think it's that serious for a second, right? Or you check on a lady because she just got punched.
Sure.
But I even think it's kind of weird. She doesn't realize how serious it is
Shock.
At first. It's almost as though, yeah, and then, but the blood becomes pretty obvious pretty quick. And I think at that point, you got to have Samaritans, good Samaritans in society.
By the way,
Mark
real
says,
quick,
I watched that video. Yeah.
It was Clint Marlochuk back of the Buffalo Sabres, and they were starting to wear masks, but they didn't have like throat protection for goaltenders
Okay.
at the time.
And
Late
he's
80s.
alive. He's alive.
He's alive. It was a trainer that jumped into the action, ran right over and saved his life. You know, it literally is just seconds away from death.
And then Mark says over on YouTube, I watched that video this morning and I haven't eaten since then. It's rough. It's really rough. What gets me the most is the still shots of her shocked and surprised eyes. She looks, I know she was like 23. She looks like she could be 14. You know, it's horrible. Okay. It's been heavy. I appreciate everybody hanging out. It's a tough subject. It's got to be talked about. It can't go away. I can't believe they're not talking about it on CNN and MSNBC. I watched last night because I was curious. Are they going to cover this? I just was shocked. They're just not. This isn't happening. This isn't a news story to them. Yesterday, I invited on Senator Rand Paul to the Will Kane Show. Now, Senator Rand Paul has really gone after President Trump, and in particular J.D. Vance, about the bombing of a drug cartel boat in the Caribbean. You guys saw that about a week and a half ago. The United States military, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, took out, by their own intelligence and reports to public, a drug cartel boat heading north. Rand Paul says it's horrific to kill people like this. No due process, no arrests, no boarding, no confirmation, no nothing like that. And he's got into a debate on social media with various people, and he is invoked To Kill a Mockingbird. He's also addressed, by the way, the Barbary Pirates and Thomas Jefferson. I knew that, so I brought that up to him yesterday. I don't know how much of this cut you have, Dan, but I told him, Senator, I think To Kill a Mockingbird is the wrong analogy. You're talking about an American criminal trial, American citizens on American soil. The better analogy is Thomas Jefferson and the Barbary Pirates. It is that Thomas Jefferson launched an attack on the Barbary Pirates, that's off the coast of North Africa, without congressional authorization. He later went and got congressional authorization, but he did it without it. Rand Paul says to me, here's why that one doesn't work, because those pirates were attacking American ships. This was an act of self-defense. I think that's a distinction without a difference. Here is my exchange with Senator Rand Paul. We would rely on those very same institutions if we were told, for example, a foreign power or a terrorist were bringing in on a ship VX gas or sarin gas, which equally would kill Americans. This just happens to be fentanyl. Would you oppose the military striking a ship headed towards our shores with VX gas?
No. And the question is this, though. We have dozens of ships every day stopped for drugs. Is the new policy going to be blow them to smithereens with drones? I can't imagine that's going to be our policy. It would lead to chaos. We have dozens of ships. Think of it also this way. I'm not saying this is U.S. citizens, but when we try to protect U.S. citizens' rights, we still make mistakes.
Okay, so he pivots. He says to me, no, and I think that my analogy is on point. So first of all, the Barbary Pirates are attacking American ships, and we're acting in self-defense. So that's how he says that's different. Well, the difference is now you have drug cartels, which are a designated terrorist organization. He says to me, by the President of the United States, not Congress, but a designated terrorist organization, bringing a poison to the United States. That poison is not VX gas or sarin gas, which he admits to me, if that were the case, if a terrorist organization were bringing VX gas or sarin gas to American shores, he wouldn't oppose. You lighten them up. So what's the difference with fentanyl? With the drug cartel, it is a poison, okay? And most fentanyl overdoses are poisoning deaths, not overdoses, meaning not choosing to do fentanyl. Fentanyl laced into other drugs that people are buying. There are some people that buy fentanyl. That's true. But poisoning American citizens, fentanyl, VX gas, how big of a difference? And headed to American shores. He also said it was 2,700 miles from America. How do you know they were headed to America? You don't think they do drugs in Central America? Look, America is the endpoint market for what? 80% of the drug traffic in the Western Hemisphere? I mean, that's where the money is. Yeah, I think they do drugs in Central America and in Mexico. I do. But I think the United States military operates off of a position of intel. And that intel tells them who these people are, what they've got on the boat, and where they are headed. Now, do I trust intel always? No. Do I trust the CIA always? No, I don't. And I think that's a legitimate point. But I think that's very different than indiscriminately bombing drug boats off the coast of Florida. There's a level of intelligence and deterrence and all types of reasons this is done versus just lighten up every drug dealer without due process. These aren't American citizens. They don't have, the Constitution does not afford them the protections. They are a designated terrorist organization, and it is terrorizing America. I think I have two other observations about that exchange, and I'll bring you guys in as well. One, this is the way it's going to go. If you think I'm only going to challenge Democrats, you've tuned into the wrong program. If I disagree with someone, even if they're a Republican, we're going to have that exchange. I think Senator Paul was not upset about that. I don't think he's afraid of a few tough questions. I don't think he's afraid of a debate. I think he understands the nature of disagreement, and I told him, and I mean this. A lot of people don't like Senator Paul right now. I respect Senator Paul and his commitment to the Constitution and individual liberty. I do think he's much more of a libertarian than I am, and I think that he sometimes, like a lot of libertarians, put this utopic vision of the world in front of the practical realities of the world. And the Constitution, no one loves the Constitution more than me, but it's not a suicide pact. It's not. It doesn't hamstring us or handcuff us from doing things that protect Americans. It just doesn't. And so, does he have legitimate arguments about this? He does. I want to say that as well. Like, the expansion of the war on terror and designating more and more things as terrorist organizations, it is a slippery slope that deserves its own scrutiny, without a doubt. But I just don't have a lot of sympathy for drug cartels, operating with impunity, with ever-increasing margins and ever-increasing gross revenue, meaning they're doing more and more business, in the United States of America, and a little bit of deterrence headed that way. But I welcome, and I think that he is game. I think he's a gamer. I think he's happy to have that, and we'll have that. Doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. And my second takeaway is, and I've talked to you guys about this, I can't help it. I get a little irritated with, like, the clip farms. I do. There's, like, bots in clip farms on the left that just take that and clip it, and then they characterize it. We did this with Tallarico, and they say, Senator Paul destroys Will Kane. Senator Paul embarrasses Will Kane. And then everybody's like, Fox News has hired somebody. This is what they say. No offense, Jesse. They're like, Will's dumber than Jesse. Which I'm like, that's what I get a lot, I even got one yesterday. At least Jesse has a twinkle in his eye about it. Will takes himself too seriously. Like, I mean, first of all, Jesse is incredibly smart and good at what he does. And I'd like to think that these are not just vigorous debates, smart debates, but good-natured debates. And I just get irritated at the way that it's portrayed online by people that consume their news through a scroll washing over them with someone else telling them what they're supposed to think about something they did not even watch.
Question.
So that's what I got with Senator Rand Paul. Go ahead.
Two-parter. Is there any option for you not to look at those things? So I feel like it bothers you a lot. Or do you like to know what people are saying?
The problem is he takes the negative
I think that everybody involved.
Like, he only looks at the negatives.
But that just makes. Yeah. But that just makes me human. We all do that. We all do that. You let the compliments wash over you and you ruminate on the negatives. We all do it, okay? I'm like everybody else. And I think that everybody involved in the show would like me to be more involved in social media. And so I actually don't think I do it that much or read that many comments and internalize that many. But, I mean, I'll tell you this. Everybody in this business who's ever told me, don't read it, you can't. I think they read it. I think they do. One of the guys that always told me that was Stephen A. You telling me that Stephen A. doesn't read comments and doesn't let that bang around a little bit? I'm having a hard time believing that. But you can't let it change who you are. That's what you can't.
Second thing, if you don't mind, something I learned about you, especially with debate, when I first started working with you, you like to have someone explain what they mean by everything. And you're not one to shy away from listening to another perspective and maybe changing your opinion. So the way you debate is great, and people should appreciate what you do. So, like, when I first started working with you, I would say something and you'd be like, what do you mean by that? Because normally people, if they hear something, they're just like, whatever. It's like a flippant comment or something like that. But you like to understand how people think, which is, I think,
that's true.
Very important.
Well, thank you, Two-Days.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not aware that I do that. Now I'm going to be, like, super self-conscious. What do you mean by that?
Come on, man. No, it's a positive thing.
Then I said,
Because some people just say things to say things, and you make
I,
sure they say things to mean something.
yeah. You know what you got to be careful of, and I thought about this morning, like with First Take or any of these television debates, is here's the deal. I saw this. Instagram is scary, right, of how much it listens to you. And what it fed me the story of the tiger and the donkey. Have you guys ever heard the story of the tiger and the donkey?
Sounds familiar.
So the tiger and the donkey get into a debate. The donkey says the grass is blue. The tiger says, no, it's not. The grass is green. They then go on a big argument about whether or not the grass is blue or green. They decide to settle it by going to see the king of the jungle. They go see the lion. The lion is sitting there on his throne, majestically presiding over this, and they go to the lion and they say, donkey says the grass is blue. Tiger says the grass is green. Who's right? Donkey says, I'm right, lion? Grass is blue. And the lion goes, you are right, donkey. The grass is blue. And he says, see, I told you. And he celebrated. I won. See, I won. And you should punish the tiger for being wrong and so obstinate. He goes, you're right. Tiger, you are sentenced to 5 years of silence. And donkey celebrates, runs away, huge victory, giddy, excited. Grass is blue. Tiger hangs out. He sits here for a minute. After the donkey has left, he says to the lion, what just happened? Why'd you do that? You know the grass is green. And the lion goes, yeah, you're right. The grass is green. He goes, why did you do that? And he goes, because you're the one that's in the wrong for arguing with a donkey. You gave that your attention. You did that argument. And that was incredibly foolish of you to waste so much of your air and so much of your honest arguing with someone over whether or not the grass is blue. And you need to think about that in some silence. And it was really interesting to think about that in terms of don't just argue to win. People get off on the ego trip of winning a debate. People get off on not what's right or wrong or what is true, but having their own ego gratified by the win. And I have to check myself on that and always be self-aware. Are you pursuing truth? Are you getting what's right? Sometimes you argue with the donkey to show to everyone else that the grass is green. I definitely, because there's going to be a lot of people, why do you invite on James Tallarico? Why do you invite on James Carville? And why do we have to hear the debate about whether or not the grass is blue? Because sometimes the argument is for someone else to hear exactly why someone is doing this, why they are making this position, and how ridiculous it is that they're making this position. But don't get caught up in the win. Get caught up in the exposure and the enlightenment of the truth. I'd like to think that's what we can do by having some of these conversations. All right, that's going to do it for us today here on Kane Country. Again, we hope you'll hang out. David, I want to see you here again tomorrow, okay? 12 o'clock Eastern Time, Kane Country YouTube channel. Spotify, Apple. We'll see you next time.